Welcome, everybody. We have another episode Against the Grain podcast. Before I introduce our guest today, I just wanted to share real quick. We've been having a lot of people just connect with us on here. A lot of people have been blessed by this podcast. We want to make sure that you guys are getting the best audio, the best video, just the best quality. We want you guys to share this. We want people that are watching. I mean, everything on YouTube right now, it's already really well produced. And I believe us as a church, we got to be on that level. So with that being said, we got this soundboard in, this little audio thing. It's going to make the audio sound so much better. I know you guys are probably hearing that right now. Obviously, things like this, cameras, everything, it's not cheap. Right now, we're doing all this by volunteer work. So I had someone ask how they can give, how they can sew in. We have a way that you guys can do that. If you feel led to do that, you will text the number 84321. That's the phone number. So 84321, and just text your dollar amount to give. It might be $10, it might be $200, it might be $700, and you pay for a whole audio mixer. Whatever you feel led to give, I would encourage you guys to do that. It's not only just giving just so we can have stuff here. Honestly, you guys are sowing into something. Layla's going to share her podcast, on her podcast today, she's going to share everything, all her testimony. She was blessed by a previous podcast. So you have no clue the people that are going to be blessed by watching this. So we want to encourage you guys to sow into that. Again, the phone number is 84321. Text your dollar amount to give. It's going to send you a link. You'll click that. You'll type in Harvest Time Church Covina. Type in your card information. It's 100% safe. And then, again, just your dollar amount to give. And then from there, anytime that you guys watch, save that number, 84321. All you have to do is text your dollar amount, and it'll automatically get withdrawn from your account. You don't have to keep putting in your card information. So with that being said, today we have a special guest, Layla. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. Man, I'm so excited for this. I want to just share that, this is a really special podcast because not only are you a friend, not only you're part of the ministry, but you're my cousin's girlfriend. Like, my cousin Christian, he's, we obviously have grown up together. He's looked up to us forever.
Yeah.
I remember him bringing you around and stuff, kind of meeting you more like last year and everything. And then now to hear where you're at, to hear just your testimony. I'm so excited to have you here. So it really means a lot to me. So with that being said, talk to us a little bit, introduce yourself, talk to me a little bit about kind of your upbringing, kind of who you are, a little bit of your background, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay, well, thank you so much for welcoming me, and I'm so honored to be on this. Like, I have been waiting for this moment. I'm so excited. So I've been raised here in Covina by my mother and grandmother. Mostly my grandma, but my mom, they both did their part. Covina my whole life. My grandma was raised in an Episcopal church. So because of that, I was also raised in an Episcopal church since I was mostly with her.
What exactly is that? Is that like, what kind of church? Like, what was it? What kind of church was it?
So for me, I haven't really done my research, but what it reminds me most of is like a Catholic church. So we do communion. They do all the same, like the verses and everything. It's very similar, what I would say. So that's what it reminds me of. Yeah. So that's what I grew up in. I was actually baptized in the church when I was a baby. So, and I volunteered there and everything. So that's where I grew up. But I have an aunt who I'm very close with, and she grew up in the Christian church. So she would always invite me to Christian church when I was young, and I would go. And there I really got to experience God, and like I was able to build a relationship with him there more than the Episcopal church. So that's kind of how I grew up as far as like in the church scene and everything. So yeah.
What was it like growing up, like in like school, like high school? Like how were you like in high school and stuff?
Yeah. So I would say like around middle school, I started getting in trouble. I mean, as a kid, I always got in little messes, troubles, and everything. But middle school is when I got in like the biggest trouble. I started acting out. I would say in like 7th grade, I had to move schools. So I would always, like I said, my mother and grandmother raised me, but they lived separately. So I would switch back and forth from their houses. So in 7th grade, I got in trouble. And at that time, I was living with my mom. But I got in a lot of trouble, so I had to move with my grandma. And I moved from Yucaipa to Covina. So I had to switch schools and everything. And then 8th grade, I lived with my grandma. And then the trouble, like, it didn't go away. Even though I moved, it just progressed. So at my grandma's house in 8th grade, I got in trouble in school. I got in fights and everything. And so I ended up getting kicked out of that school.
Really that bad, huh?
Yeah. And then they sent me to a continuation school.
Wow.
And then I got kicked out of the continuation school.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had to move complete districts. So I was still living with my grandma, but I moved to a whole nother district. And so that was in high school when I moved. So freshman year was like my first year in a new school district. And freshman year went well. It wasn't too bad. Sophomore year rolled around. And that's when it started getting like my trouble kind of came back. So sophomore year is I started getting in trouble. I started dabbling in like weed and alcohol and everything. And so that's when I started really getting into like the bad stuff because like, drugs and alcohol, that's when it really gets deeper. So sophomore year I started getting into that. It was light. I mean, I didn't really care for it. I tried it here and there, but it wasn't like something I did every day or all the time even. So that was sophomore year. Junior year, that's when I started really like every day. So junior year, I started going to parties and everything, like every Saturday, me and all my friends, we would like get ready and we'd be so excited. Like this Saturday, we're going to a party. It was every week. So every week we would go partying, we would drink, smoke, and all that. It came to the point where, I mean, I was smoking so much that it was just every day. It was like that was just part of my day. I don't know if it was because I was bored or I just got used to it. So it's like I couldn't not do it. So I did that every day, started smoking every day, partying every weekend. And, with partying, like, it's like functions. So they're
Yeah.
like little flyer parties. Everyone knows about them. So they can be dangerous. Like, people would go and, like, shoot at people, like, random people. So I had, like, some scares at parties and stuff.
What city was this? Like Covina still?
Oh, yeah, Covina, Azusa. Like, I was still living with my grandma. And my grandma, she's amazing for going through all that with me. So, yeah, that was, like, junior year, senior year. COVID hit in like senior year for me. Once COVID hit, the parties kind of stopped because, COVID. So once the parties stopped, I wasn't done like partying. Like I wasn't done drinking and smoking. So I was like, what can I do now? Because there's no parties. So then I started making like new friends. And so, which I believe were like worse examples. So I met some new friends and we would like smoke, drink, because that's what I wanted to do. And they introduced me to like more things like pills and
Mm,
cocaine and just heavier drugs.
yeah.
And me, I mean, I was already doing smoking, drinking. I'm like, yeah, I'll try it. You know what I mean? So then I get into those things. And at that point, my grandma was like, okay, you can't live with me, like this is too much. So my grandma was like, call my mom, like, hey, I need you to take her back.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of like I would go back and forth because at one point my mom was like, okay, this is too much. And then the other point, my grandma was like, this is too much. So I go back to my mom's and there I'm already in like smoking weed every day. I drink like all the time. Pills, it wasn't like I wouldn't do that all the time, but it was there. Like I would if someone had them, I'm like, okay, yeah. So it was really like dark there because I already had all that was going on with me doing the drugs and everything. And then at my mom's house, there was other situations that were bad as well. Just I felt like rejected and a whole bunch of other stuff that I was going into. So it was kind of like my problems were mixing with all of that.
Mm,
So it kind of put me in a very like dark state, I would say. So at my mom's house, yeah, it was I don't know how to explain it, but well, depression, right? I guess I would say I was always in the dark.
mm,
So like even though the lights would be on in the house, I would go outside, it's a sunny day. I just felt like everything was always dark.
yeah.
Like physically, it just looked dark.
Mm,
And then it felt dark, of course, as well. So eventually I started like running away from my mom's because I was like, I don't want to be here. It's bad. So I started running away. The friends that actually introduced me to pills, that was the first time I ran away. I went and met them, and I ran away for 2 nights. So when I ran away, they were staying. I don't want to say like a trap house. I mean, you know what
mm,
that is,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
everyone's staying in there.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that. It wasn't like as bad as you would think, but it wasn't. It wasn't good. They were doing a bunch of stuff, and there was a lot of people in there. So the first night I stayed in somewhere like that, and they were drinking, just the same things. And I remember someone was like, "Oh, I have mushrooms, like magic mushrooms, psychedelics." And I was like, "Oh, I've always wanted to try this." And when I first started smoking, like I've always said, "Oh, I want to try mushrooms." So I was like, "Yeah, like this is so cool." So I didn't try them that day, but so I spent the night there. We got crazy, but the next day I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna try them the next day." So when I woke up in the morning the next day, I was like, okay, I don't want to stay here anymore. It was just too many people. I've never been one for like loud environments and just like stuff like that. So after a little, I'm like, okay, I want to go home. So I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. So I texted one of my friends that lived in the area because I ran away from home and my mom lived in Rancho and I was in Covina. So it's kind of like a distance, you know?
Yeah.
So I texted one of my friends and I was like, can I come spend the night tonight? Because my mom, like, I wasn't answering any of her texts and I didn't want to, you know? So I didn't want to go home. I was like, can I come spend the night? And she was like, yeah, okay, just one night, you know? And I'm like, okay, like, I'm going to bring mushrooms and we're going to try them together, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. So she was like, oh, yay, I'm so excited. It was her first time too, you know? So I end up stealing some. I stole some mushrooms. I steal like weed pills from these people. Like I take it, I put it in my bag, and then I take the bus to go to her house. And so I get to her house and her mom's there and everything. So I'm like, okay, I gotta hide it, you know? And then it gets late, and so I'm like, okay, well when your mom goes to sleep, we're gonna do them. So she goes to sleep, and then we take the mushrooms. Like I remember, like we put it in a little sandwich and stuff. So stupid, you know.
Yeah.
But we take the mushrooms, and I just remember like feeling. I just remember like I was like, this is so cool. Like everything was moving. Like she had a mural of Rick and Morty on her wall, and all like the characters were moving, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like nothing I've ever experienced.
Crazy.
You know? Yeah. And I wouldn't say I had a super crazy spiritual experience, but I felt like it opened my mind a little. I was like, okay, there's something more here.
Yeah.
You know, because we were watching like videos and listening to music that's like for trips, you know? And so it kind of just, it went along, and I was like, okay, there's something more to life. And so that's when I started getting into like the spiritual side of psychedelics. And that's like, it took me down a dark path, which I'll get into. So we do that, we go to sleep. And the next night, I couldn't stay the next night, right? Her mom was like, one night only. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Because I don't want to go home.
Yeah.
So I end up, her mom's getting home at 4 that day. And I'm like, I have to go somewhere. So I call my mom, you know, I gave in. I'm like, I have nowhere to go. So I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, like, I need you to come pick me up. I have nowhere to sleep tonight. And she's like, no, like, I've been calling you for 2 days. Like, where have you been? I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, please come get me. I was like crying. I'm like, I have nowhere to go. And she's like, okay, but I have work. Like, I'll be there at like 7, you know? And I'm like, okay, but I have to be out at my friend's house at 4. Like, where do I go? So I end up leaving her house and I go to the apartments next door. And I'm on my phone, I'm laying on a patch of grass. So I just find like somewhere to sit. And I have all my stuff with me, like my bag, my phone, like money, everything. And so I'm like super bored. I'm like, what should I do? So I have like this little like half like a Xanax in my bag. So then I take it. And next thing I know, like I knock out and then I wake up and it's like 8 o'clock. It's dark outside and I'm on the floor and all my stuff is there. And I'm like, I'm confused. And I actually woke up to a guy waking me up. He was like, are you okay? Like he looked really like scared. Like he thought he didn't know if I was breathing or something. He looked really scared. And I'm like, I was okay. I was just so confused. I'm like, wait, where am I? Where am I? And then I realized I'm like, my mom, like, she's probably here, you know? And I look at my phone and, like, she had just texted me, like, 2 minutes ago, I'm here. I'm like, oh, my goodness, like, thank goodness, like, I'm right on time, you know? But now that I think about it, I'm like, God was there with me. Like, he had his hand on me because it wasn't in a safe area. It was in a dangerous, like, you know, like the little Section 8 apartments that are, like, it was in the middle of there. And so I'm like, and I had all my stuff. My phone was just laying on the floor, all my stuff.
Crazy.
I'm like, I know he was there, you know? So my mom takes me back. Luckily, I go back to my mom's.
Wait, this is 2020 still?
Yes, so this is 2020. Possibly, yeah, 2020. This is 2020. I would say around like this time 2020, so like July. And so I go back to my mom's and I'm still nothing changed there. So it's still like the same dark place, you know? And at that point I was just like I have nothing going for me. But after I took those shrooms, I had that slight sense of like there's something more to life. So I hung on to that. I clinged to that and I was like, okay, what can I do about that? So I start listening to these podcasts, which is crazy because we're on a podcast right now. But I started listening to these podcasts and they go really deep. It was like parallel universes, talking about the simulation theory, which is like a theory that none of this is real.
It's not real, yeah.
And that, it put me in a hole, like deep. It started talking about just a bunch of crazy stuff like that, you know? And it put me deep in a hole to where I was like, I felt like I was going crazy. I was like, I don't know what's real and what's not. And so I would like look at my hands all the time and I'd be like, this isn't real. Or I would talk to my mom and mid-conversation, I would just zone out and think like, where am I? Like, this isn't even real, you know? So it was I was so out of touch with reality just
Mm,
after that one experience.
it's crazy.
Yeah. And after that, I did shrooms like multiple times. And the reason I did them is because, like, the first time I did them, I was also filled with a lot of love, like I've never felt before, which I felt like that was something I was longing for.
Love from who? Like the people that you were with, or like,
I just felt a lot of love for my life. I
mm,
was actually grateful to be here. I was
wow.
actually like, I'm happy that I'm here and I need to like be nicer to the people around me. I need to love them more. And that's something I never felt. Usually I was in just like a bubble of darkness and hate and anger all the time. And it opened me up and I felt better. So I thought, okay, this is something that's good for me. I
Because you
thought.
said that you said that you were like fighting a lot and stuff. Like, what were you at the time? Like, what were you angry about, or who, or like, what do you feel like you were like kind of like angry about? I guess.
Yeah. So I would say that I was angry about my family. I was angry towards my mom and my dad. And well, I never really had my dad in my life. And that's why I was angry.
Mm,
And then my mom, I felt like she was my only parent, but she did her best. I don't want to say she didn't, but she was never really there for me. You know, as far as like sitting down and talking, it wasn't something that she could do, but she didn't get that either as a child. So I understand why, you know, but I was so angry because as a child, I always thought, this is my mom. Like, she's supposed to like love me. She's supposed to talk to me. She's supposed to want to be here for me. So when I felt like she didn't, I was really confused and it really hurt me, you know, and that would cause a lot of fights and everything. Yeah, so that's where a lot of my anger was a lot of it. I got in many fights with my mom,
mm,
not physical, but words. The words that were said were very powerful,
yeah.
you know, and I would like throw things, punch the wall. And I have three younger siblings, and like they would be there the whole time
Mm,
watching, and you know, they really looked up to me. So now looking back, I'm like, dang, like the things that I showed them, it's crazy, you know?
mm,
So that's where a lot of my anger rooted from. And I reflected a lot of anger towards my mom. Honestly, everyone around me, I reflected my anger towards.
that's crazy.
Yeah, right? So,
So
yeah,
then that's 2020, and then
2020.
how do you like what? How did that end, or where
Oh,
were you at
yeah.
like towards the end of 2020?
Okay, so towards the end of 2020, okay, so I ended up getting in like a major fight with my mom. Like, we got in little fights all the time, just arguing, but I ended up getting in a major fight with her, and this ended in like the police were there and I just had to leave. And so my grandma took me back. She came, she didn't want to cuz she was still angry at me about what I did with her. And but my mom didn't want me. My mom called her and was like, please take her. Like, this will be the last thing I ask you. Just take her off my hands. And my grandma was like, okay. So my grandma came and picked me up, and I went back to my mom's. And that was toward the end of 2020, I
Mm.
think. And that's when I started living with my grandma. And ever since then, I've been with her. So that will stay the same. That from now on, I've been with my grandma.
Does she
Um,
like see? Because obviously you've like changed and stuff. Does she see like a difference in you and stuff? Like,
oh, yeah.
do you guys ever talk about it or anything like that?
Yeah,
Or
she always talks about it, and she'll tell other people like, Layla, she went through her crazy days and now she's good. And I'm like, yeah, right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So she definitely sees it. But when I went to her house, I definitely wasn't I wasn't done, you know? I mean, I just came back from like a crazy situation at my mom's, and like I said, like the trouble that I would get in, it never went away just cuz I moved locations. It just progressed. But my grandma's was definitely less toxic and she
mm,
would help me through it, but I still had all the anger. I just wanted to act out, you know? Yeah. So I went back to my grandma's, and around this time, I started hanging out with a friend that I knew in seventh grade. So we started talking again, and she was also into like new age, spiritual, all that stuff, you know? So when she was talking to me about it, I was like, what? Like, the reason I was shocked was because the gateway to new age for me was psychedelics, right? So when I would take psychedelics, it was like, I don't know how to put it. I kind of just say that I got like downloaded information.
mm,
Like, I just knew these things, I just felt these things, and I thought, wow, like I'm so powerful. I'm the only one that knows these, right? So when she told me all this stuff, I was like, wait, this is a thing? Because she had like crystals, yoga, and I was like, wait, what? Like, more people know about this? I was so confused. She's like, yeah, like it's new age. Like, we do this, like, this is our life. And I'm like, I was so egotistic and prideful that I was like, no, you guys don't know what I know though, like,
Yeah.
but it's the same thing,
Mm.
So we started hanging out. I go to her house and she's telling me about all her crystals and like yoga, and she has like tarot cards, she has like spell books, incense, all that, and I'm like, this is so cool, like this is what I want. Like I wanted all of it. Like this is the life I want to live. I was so like infatuated with the spiritual, but it was the bad, dark
Hmm.
spiritual. But I didn't know that. I thought that it was light and love and what that was the purpose of life. But she shows me all that, and then I tell her like about mushrooms. I'm like, you have to take mushrooms. Like
Mm.
you trust me, it'll get you way deeper in like you really want to be. I
Wow.
was like, yeah, I know, right? And then I would tell her about astral projecting, which is like basically trying to like have your soul leave your body while you're sleeping.
Have you
Uh,
ever had that like experience and stuff?
no, I haven't. I
Mm.
tried, but I never did it. Thank God,
Hmm.
right? But I did lucid dream, and I would tell her about that, like, which is like you're awake in your
Yeah.
dream, and I would do that, and I didn't really do anything intentional in my dreams when I was lucid dreaming. I only did it a couple times, and I was like, whoa! So I'm like, let me do this. It wasn't like actual like getting to a certain point.
Mm.
But I did tell her, I was like, you have to do these things. Like it's amazing. I told her about parallel universes, how reality isn't reality, like all this crazy stuff, right? So I'm like, you have to take shrooms. And she's like, okay, but you could tell like she didn't want to.
Mm.
But I'm like, I'm gonna bring them, okay? So one day I went to her house. Like I would go back home and then go to her house all the time. But one day I went to her house, and this is in December 2020, I would say, because it was snowing. So,
Mm.
and she lives like all the way in like Ukaipa, like kind of where I used to live, and that's
Mm.
why I knew her from that period of time. So I go to her house and I bring shrooms, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna do them, and we're gonna go on a hike in the morning in like the snowy mountains, and it's gonna be great. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's gonna be a spiritual experience. Like we're gonna connect with the world and all this crazy stuff. And so I remember like we wake up the morning. I'm like, today's the day. Like we're finally gonna do them. I was so excited for her. And I make a sandwich, and she's like, I don't want to do them. I'm like, I'm not gonna pressure her. So I was like, okay, but I'm still gonna do them. So I had like this little container, and at first it had like a bunch of shroom like pieces, like actual mushrooms, but I had already taken all those, so it just had a bunch of like crumbs at the end.
Do
And
people like sell these, or like how are you getting
oh yeah,
these?
I got them like off the street, like on my
Mm.
Snapchat. I would just text like someone and be like, hey, do you have any? And they're like, yeah, and they'll just drop it off at my house.
Mm.
Like it's crazy how easy it gets around, huh?
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like crazy. But yeah, so I just had a bunch of these little crumbs in there, which I've never taken. So I didn't know how much to take or how little, but I made a sandwich. And I was like, I don't know. So I just poured the whole thing in there. I was like, whatever, like,
Is there like a certain amount you should take or shouldn't take or
well, I
whatever?
mean, you can do whatever, but I mean, it's intense. So, like, you don't want to do too much. And usually for me, I only used to do like two of the little mushrooms. Like, they look like actual mushrooms,
Mm.
and I would only do two. But these were just like little crumbs. So I was like, I don't know. So I just threw them all on there. I was like, it can't be much. I didn't even think it was going to work, right? So I throw them on there, and then I eat the sandwich, and then we're going to leave in like 10 minutes. So I'm like, okay, let me use the restroom first. So I go to the restroom, and then all of a sudden, like my hands are sweating, like a
Mm.
lot. My feet are sweating. I'm like gross, but my heart's pounding out of my chest. And I'm like, I just took them 10 minutes ago. And usually it would take like 40 minutes to an hour to hit.
I hear
And
people like they'll take some and then they'll think it's like not working, so they'll take more because it takes so long to like happen, right? But you're saying like in
yeah.
10 minutes you felt it.
Yeah, in 10 minutes I felt it, and that's never happened for me. So I was like, I took too much, and I was scared. I was like, oh no. So I remember looking in the mirror and telling myself, like, Layla, breathe, like, you're gonna be okay. Like, don't be that person that makes
Mm.
them go to the hospital. I
Like
was
that
like,
bad trip or whatever.
yeah. So I was like, it's fine, you're fine. So, and I've had experiences like this in the past where I've taken too many like drugs, like too many pills or something, and felt like, am I gonna die? Like there was a
Mm.
time like I took like 6 pills and I fell asleep for 2 days.
Really?
Yeah, and it's funny because going back into the shrooms, I was so out of touch with reality that I thought that that day I died and I was in a parallel universe now.
Wow.
And I was like really believe that I'm in a parallel universe because I died that day. So isn't that crazy,
It's
right?
wild.
Yeah. So back to the shroom story. So I end up taking them. Yeah, I'm in the bathroom. I'm like, okay, it's okay. So I walk out, we get in the car and we're driving, we're on our way. And all of a sudden, like my feet start like shaking. Like shaking crazy, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I might have to go to the hospital. And I heard everywhere like you're okay, you're not gonna die on shrooms.
Yeah.
But when you feel like, you're gonna die. You're like, I might die, you know?
Mm.
So I'm like, I have to go to the hospital. Like, but I didn't tell them anything because I was too embarrassed. You know, I didn't want to be like trouble. We already had this day planned out. We were already on our way. So I didn't say anything. I just dealt with it and I just tried taking my breath slowly. So we started reaching, like we were getting very close to the hike. And all of a sudden on the radio, this song played. It's called Praise the Lord by A$AP Rocky.
Mm.
And I don't know if you heard that song.
I don't think I ever
Probably
have. No,
not. No.
I know who he is though.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and it's crazy that that's the name of the song, right?
Mm.
So the song starts playing, and then all of a sudden, I'm like pulled out of my trip because I was looking out the window, like tripping, right? But
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I'm pulled to the song, and I'm like, and I just felt like such a darkness. It was like the whole car just got black, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is demons. Like I knew it. I was like, this is demons in this song, and I'm like, why are we listening to this? Like I was going crazy in my mind. I was like, this song is so demonic. Like these are straight demons. And it's for me, it wasn't exactly the words he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
It was the tone and what he was saying it. Like his voice is so deep in it.
Yeah.
And also it's the sound, the frequency of the music, like the beat and all that. It's dark. Like it's demonic.
Talk about that because I've heard that before, like frequencies and stuff like
Oh,
that. But
yeah.
it's a real thing, right?
Oh yeah, like I felt it crazy. Like I literally felt like I could feel what hell was like while I was listening to and I wasn't even listening to the words. I was listening to the beat, the sound of his voice, and like the frequency, which I guess you could say is like basically like the sound of the song, which is it was really dark and deep. And I literally felt like this is like the sound of hell. Like this music is like it's glorifying hell. Like
Yeah.
that's what it's doing. It was so obvious to me at that time. And before that I never knew that music was bad, but during that time I was like, oh yeah, like this is straight demons, you know?
It's crazy.
And it's crazy. So while I was listening to that, I got this whole vision because I was tripping, you know, and I got this whole vision of like demons running the earth, running me, controlling everybody. And like basically they were controlling everything. And that was all going on in my mind. While my friends were like driving, they didn't even know what was going on in my mind. And I was just in the back like, oh my gosh, like where am I? I was like, what's happening? Like it was crazy. So we get to the hike, and so that was after like all the car ride, right? So we get to the hike, I get out the car, and I know it's like super cold, but I was like so high that I was numb. I couldn't even feel the cold. So we're walking around, and it's crazy. Like all the trees looked dark. Like you know, like when trees look scary. Like I don't know, like there's no leaves. They look like burnt, and they're all like in different directions. That's how all the trees looked. The sky looked dark. The grass looked like everything just looked so dark. And I was like, I'm having a bad trip. Like I thought about it. I was like, wow, this is what a bad trip feels like. And I never thought I would. I was like, oh gosh, here we go. Because a trip lasts like 8 hours.
Really?
8, 9 hours. So I was like, all right, I'm in for a ride, you know? And so I'm looking around, and the whole time we're walking, I'm just feeling the darkness from that song. Just that one song put me in it, put me in that darkness. And I'm just feeling it, and I'm like, wow, like where am I? Like the demons, like they're everywhere. They're running this place. Like I felt like I could see them like in the sky, like just walking around the earth and everything. And I just felt like in a really dark place. So my friends were walking like ahead of me because I was just like in the back, like looking around, you know, like doing whatever. But I was having like all these dark thoughts. And I remember telling them, like, you guys, I literally told them just like this. I was like, you guys, I'm in another dimension right now.
Wow.
And they were like, and they didn't think I was crazy because they already like knew about that stuff. So they were like, whoa. And I remember my friend's boyfriend, who also lived with her, he was like, oh my goodness, I need to try these. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, because after what I was experiencing, but I was like, I'm in another dimension. I'm like, you guys, we are both here right now, but I'm in a different place. Like I'm not on earth right now. And I was just like tripping. And so after that, we just went through the hike. The whole time I was just feeling this darkness. And then finally we left. We go home, and my trip's settling down. So like while I was on the hike, that's what you call like the peak, where I was really like intense, like crazy feeling, right?
Yeah.
And so I get home, and it's more chill, but it's the same thing. Like you still have those deep thoughts. Your heart's just not beating as fast, and your hands aren't sweating like that, you know? But we were watching like this scary show too that they put on, and I'm like, you guys, like it was just crazy. Like the whole trip was so dark and demonic, and I've never felt anything like that. And then that's the last time I took shrooms, because I was like, this is demonic. Like I shouldn't know this stuff. And I remember after that, like I was crying, like when it wore off, I was just crying because I was like, I know too much. Like I would think about myself as a kid. I would always think about like little Layla, and I'm
Mm.
like, why? Like, how did I get here? Like, why do I know all this scary stuff? Like,
Wow.
why do I know that like these songs are demonic? Why do I even listen to these? Why? It was just a lot for me to handle, you
Yeah.
know? And then I remember the next day I woke up, the trip wore off, but that doesn't mean the thoughts did or the feelings did. They were still there, you know? So I woke up and I told my friend, I was like, that song yesterday was so demonic. Like, it made my whole trip bad. Like, now I see the truth in music. I told her, like, that was demons through the music. Like, I
That's crazy
told
because you weren't
her.
even in church or anything at the time. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy that you're saying all this stuff. You know what I mean? It's wild.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what's so weird
Mm-hmm.
too. And I told her, but I believe that we were in hell. That's what I
Mm.
told her. I was like, I think that we're in hell. And she was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, you don't know, like the feeling I got. I was like, I think we're in hell. And I told her, I don't know why I'm here. And then I started thinking about like my sisters, and I
Mm.
started crying. I'm like, why are they here? Like, why are we here? Like, how do we get out? And I'm like, what did we do to get here?
And it's just like messing you up, like just mentally and
Yeah.
stuff. It's wild.
Yeah. It's like it makes you go crazy. I
Yeah.
was going crazy. Like I thought we were in hell. It's crazy. And so after that I was like, I'm not listening to rap anymore. I'm not. It's funny cuz that night I had my makeup done, like my nails were long.
Mm-hmm.
And also while I was tripping, I looked in the mirror and I'm like, Layla, like what are you doing? Like my makeup was like black eyeshadow and like the
Mm.
cat eye look, and my nails were long. So for some reason, when I was tripping and I looked in the mirror, I was like, this is like the demonic look. And that's why so
Mm.
many people in the world try to do that look, the long nails and the weird like eyeliner. That's because that's like a demonic look, and that's why so many people copy, and that's why it's so popular. And it's funny because that night I saw like a picture of Cardi B and she had the same exact look, and I
Mm.
was like, that's a demonic look. And so I was like crying, like I took off all my makeup, took off the nails, and I'm like, I'm never doing that again. Like no makeup, nothing. And no like and makeup's different for everybody, but for me that's what I associated it with, you
Mm.
know? And I was like, no rap music, nothing. But that didn't last, you know? So I go home and I still have all these thoughts in my head. I'm like, where am I? You know, all these crazy thoughts. And then eventually I start getting back into listening to that music, doing the makeup, you know, it just wore off.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
after a trip, like you'll feel how you felt for a couple days, but you'll just go back to normal, you know? And that's what happened. But this time when I would listen to that music, I felt it. Like
Mm.
I felt the demons, but I liked it. I liked it. Like I would listen to like actual demonic music where they're talking about like the devil and all that, and I would enjoy it. Like
Mm.
I would sing it, I would love it. And it's crazy because some music, there's like a different type of in every music of this world, right? There's a different type of feeling that I would get.
Mm-hmm.
So like some music would be just the spirit of lust, which
Mm.
a lot of rappers just speak like rap on that, you know. And I would
Yeah.
feel it, and I was like, this is disgusting. I didn't want to listen to that. And then there would be music that was like actual dark, like I don't know how to explain it. It was
What type
just
of music? Like what type of like genre?
it was always rap. Oh,
Okay.
but some was like, yeah, it was always rap. I don't know if I should say the artist, but if I can, I don't want to like expose any artist. But it was like well, like Kid Cudi.
Mm.
His music was like
Yeah, I know Kid Cudi. I didn't know he was like it was that bad.
well, the type of feeling I got from his music was like he was just so out of touch with reality.
That's true, actually, if I think about it. Yeah.
He was kind of in the spiritual
Mm-hmm.
craziness that I was in, kind of
Mm.
going crazy, like this isn't earth, like this is. And when I hear his music, I would feel that, and I would be
Mm.
like, I would love it though, because that's
Yeah.
what I liked it now, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I would listen to Suicide Boys, and that music was like straight from like straight demons, like
Mm.
they are just they're like singing on that, you
Yeah.
know. And I would like that too. And then like Travis Scott, like his music was also straight like demonic, like demons, like, and I would like it, you know. I would like on all his like weird beats and beats and auto tunes,
Mm.
straight demonic, but I would like it. I would like it's crazy because I would feel like alive. And after that, I didn't get better, and I thought that trip scared me, but I got worse. I got
Mm.
deeper into it, and I would like go outside and look at the moon, and I would listen to dark music, and like I would look at the trees move a certain way, and I would just feel like I was in it. Like it's so hard to explain,
Yeah.
but music was like it was crazy how it pulled me in.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like my craziest shroom experience. And
So
that's
2020 is like crazy for you. There's a
yeah.
lot going on right there.
Yeah,
What
crazy.
when was, because I'm even trying to remember right now, when was your first time like coming to church?
Yes.
Was that
So
2021 or 2020?
2021.
Okay.
2021. It
So this is all
was
2020. It's kind of crazy and stuff.
mhm.
And then so what happens in 2020, or what month was
Yes.
it in 2021?
So 2021, I want to say started coming to harvest time around June or July.
So it's
So
like
around this
6
time.
months from like your whole
Yes,
experience.
from that experience. But while I was coming to harvest time, I was still listening to all that music. That was around the time where I'm telling you, like, I felt the music and I liked it.
Mm,
And I felt like I ran the world in a way. Like, you're just so egotistic in New Age and
mm.
prideful. And it was hard to get out of that, but I did, praise the Lord. But yeah, and so while I came to harvest time in June, July, I was still in all that. That's when God met me, like right there. Crazy.
Because I know you watch Christina's podcast, right?
Mhm.
Um, talk to, because I know you kind of shared a little bit about, but talk a little bit about that. So when, because we shot that like I think it was November of 2021.
Mhm.
So that's what you're saying. As you're still kind of coming,
Yeah.
you're still kind of like involved and stuff. What? Because here at church and stuff, like we're very bold on stuff like and everything,
Mhm.
but we're not like on stage like specifically like, oh, new age or this
Oh,
or
yeah.
that. But
Mhm.
like as you were coming, did you already kind of feel the conviction like, I don't know if I kind of should be in both? And then also like with Christina's podcast, like talk to a little bit about that, kind of like where you were
Yes.
at when you were kind of first coming, because it must have been so
Okay.
new to you.
Yeah.
And I'll share a little bit after because I already know your story, but it's crazy like that you stuck with it. That's my biggest thing, because so many people like they could have left,
Mhm.
because you feel like, wait a minute, like I found so much peace and love, like you were saying in
Yeah.
this, and all of a sudden now it's like I'm coming to church and I shouldn't be. It's like this like
Mhm.
crazy thing. So talk to me about that.
Okay. So, yeah, I came in like June, July, and I came because as Chris, my boyfriend, your cousin, right? So he brought me here, and I didn't really care to go to church. I was like, whatever. I mean, I didn't think it was a huge deal. I was like, I'll go because you're going. I just want to be
Mm,
where you're at, So I was like, okay, fine. So I come, and instantly, like the first service I came to, I clung to the worship. Like I clung to it because music is just, I don't know what it is, but something about it, it's really special for me. And so I clung to the worship, and it was crazy since because I was still in the new age beliefs and mindsets. So I would attach the new age mindsets to the worship here, and I would think this was my mindset when I came into church. I
yeah.
would think, you guys are just like you guys are just speaking on new age, you guys are just speaking on the
Mm,
universe, but you're covering it up with a story to make yourselves
mm,
feel better
there you
about
go.
how deep and complex it really is.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what I thought. And so
Mm,
when I would listen to the worship, I would just connect it with my universe and think, okay, I'm gonna listen to this, and this it's what I believe in, but
yeah,
they're just doing it a different way.
yeah,
So I would
yeah.
listen to not the words because the word says something different than what I believed, but I
Mm,
would listen to the frequencies, the just like the tunes you guys used. I loved it, and it's crazy, like when you guys would speak in tongues, I'm like, this is actually like a spiritual universe language, but you guys are just using
yeah.
it for this. It was crazy
Christina
how
mentioned that too in her thing. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy how I thought. So and then the word would come around, right?
Mm,
And I did not like the word. I
mm,
did not like it. So when pastor would speak, I would always think like, "No, that's wrong. Like that's so wrong. Like they don't know what I know. They don't feel
mm,
what I felt, And I would always think that. And then I remember one day like he was speaking on something and I felt conviction like bad. And when you're in the new age, you don't feel conviction. You don't feel bad for what you're doing because you believe that that's to help you get to the next stage.
mm,
If you pass out drunk, that's fine because you're gonna learn from it and move to the next level of like life, right?
yeah.
But here, I felt conviction and I didn't like it. I was like, I can't do this. I don't like this place. Like, why are they judging me, making me feel bad about myself? And I would tell my grandma or talk to her and like, Grandma, they make me feel bad, and I don't think that's right. Like, if they make me
Mm,
feel that way, then I shouldn't be there. And she'd be like, no, but she knew that I needed to go through the conviction.
mm,
So I went through that, and it became like a battle in my mind, like a battle between, is it New Age or is it Christianity? Like,
mm,
I was like fighting myself. It was every single day. I couldn't get my mind off of it. I wouldn't get 5 minutes of peace every single day. All I would think about is, what's the truth? Because
yeah.
I was so into like New Age, that was my whole life. So now that I've jumped into this, and I feel this tug on my heart, and I don't know why, but I felt it, and in my mind I felt this tug. I'm like, what's right? And I would
Mm,
cry, and then it came to a point where I was like, I don't even want to be here anymore. Like, I just want to die. Like, I'm so sick of this stress. Like, which one is it? Like, I don't care. Like, I don't want to be here. And I would like just cry, like, take me away. Like, I don't want to be here because it was just so much on
Yeah.
me. It
You know,
was,
I've heard that so many times. Like, just to pause you right there, because people don't
yeah,
understand like how serious and how like how crazy that is.
yeah,
Like, you know, I know with Christina's testimony, I keep bringing her because like you guys have kind of similar
similar.
testimonies. But she would say the same thing where like she would come and then she heard like, you know, speaking in tongues, worship, and she's like, I don't know, like I see there's truth in both and I'm
Hmm.
confused. And she cried too. I think the first time
Yeah.
that we had a worship night in 2020, she cried and she like left, like she was so confused and stuff. But I want to highlight that because
Mhm.
confusion is so serious when you're
Yeah.
in that. Like that's heavy.
Mhm.
Like people don't understand like what confusion, like what that actually means, where it can literally drive you to be like, I'm so confused and I can't find peace that I'd rather not even be here right now because
Yeah.
it's so confusing. Like you said, you don't even have 5 minutes of peace.
Yeah.
And that's literally spiritual warfare like happening without you really kind of realizing it.
Mhm.
It's literally two sides fighting for your soul.
Yeah.
And like we just saying reckless love at church, you know, it's like the reckless love of God is like after you and after you,
Yeah.
but Satan and everything on the dark side is still trying to pull you, and it's like that
Mhm.
tug, and you're just like, oh, that's crazy.
Yes.
Okay, keep going.
Yes, you're so
So good.
right though. That's so true. That's how I felt. I was just like, this is crazy. It was like a
Hmm.
battle, like a tug of war, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, I was so sick of it. And finally, I'm like, okay. I remember telling myself during worship one day, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna try the Christian thing out. I'm gonna try it. If I don't like it, I'll go back to New Age. I remember
Mm.
telling myself that, like it would be that easy, but no. So I remember I was like, I went home and I prayed and I was like, God, like if you're real and if you are the truth, like please show me who you are. Show me yourself. Like I want to know you. I want to see you. I want to know the truth. And I would pray like day after day. And I would like be in my room like at night. Like it's always late hours that you're really in it, I feel like. And I was in it like praying, like crying, like God, please show me yourself. And then I believe he finally did on like December 8th. That was when Christina's podcast dropped.
Wow, you remember
And
the day? That's
yes,
crazy.
like that's the day I got saved. Like
Mm.
I remember I saw it uploaded on my TV and I was like, here we go. Like they're just gonna talk crap on my beliefs, you know? And that's what I thought. But I
Mm.
was like, but I'm having such a tug of war and they're talking about me, like what I believe in. So I'm gonna see what they have to say. Cause I need to know like what their argument is, you know? So I click on it and I'm listening, and then midway through, and I was like putting up my curtains or something, so I wasn't paying too attention. And then
Mhm.
midway through, like she says something, and I'm like, whoa, like that's like really similar to what I'm dealing with. So I sit down and I start watching, and then next thing I know, I'm just bawling my eyes out. And
Wow.
then like next thing I know, like end of the podcast, it just goes off, and I'm like, no, like I want more. I'm like,
Mm.
why? And then I just remember I just felt like my whole room like a weight was lifted and my eyes had like changed, like it was like a whole new life. And I
Mm.
was like, what just happened? I was like shaking and I felt like everything I knew and loved had been torn from me and I didn't know who I was. I was like, because New Age was everything to me. That's who I was. Like when you think of Layla, I wanted you to think of New Age. Like that's who
Mm.
I was. And now it's all gone and I'm like, what's happening? So I was
Mm.
really confused, and but I believed like it was God, you know? And so I remember at that moment, I was like, no, like it's God. It's God. Like it's
Wow.
Him, you know? I knew it. I felt it so deep. Like there's no way. And so I remember that night, I grabbed like all my crystals, spell books, like everything that I had, like all the little sculptures of like guys manifesting. And I grabbed it all and I threw it in the trash. And I remember like I
Wow.
took a picture and posted it on Instagram and I was like, this is trash. Like God has revealed
Dang.
himself to me.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
I know. And I was like, ever since that day, I've never gone back to like any of that. Like ever since December 8th, like I know the
That's
day,
awesome.
I haven't gone back, and it's all because of God. Like he
That's
saved me
crazy.
that day.
That's so
Yeah.
good. And like, you know, fast forward to today, like now you're working with the youth
I
here. Like
know.
it's so amazing. Like, you know, you and my cousin Christian, you guys were like, you know, hit me up and stuff. And you're like, hey, we really want to get involved. And this is only like a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And you got everything, everything happened in December. So it's so crazy and it's so amazing. And this is what I love about God is like, if someone is willing, he moves so fast in people's
Yeah.
lives. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy. You'll have people like that have been in church for 20 years, 30 years, like
Yeah.
40 years, their whole life. And it's crazy. They will not allow God to move as
Yeah.
much in their life as someone like you, where you've only been really in this for the last like 6 months, like serious
Yeah.
7 months, and like God's taking you so far. I see you sometimes because I'm behind the drum set. I always say I have the best seat in the house, and I
Yeah.
look out. I see you worshiping, like we had service and everything,
Yeah.
like even on today on Sunday, like man, you're worshiping your heart out and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's just so amazing to see like where you're at, and you're
Yeah.
just like you're giving it all. You guys are going to hip hop concerts. You guys are going all across the state.
Yes.
Following different artists and stuff like that, and you're just like so tapped into like
Yes.
this, and it's just so amazing to see like the happiness and
Mhm.
stuff. Talk a little bit, because I know people are gonna watch this,
Mhm.
and they have Christina's episode, now they have yours and stuff.
Mhm.
What if they're watching this is the second one, maybe they're watching, or maybe they're watching for the first time, they're just like, hey, I'm in this new age stuff. I have crystals.
Yeah.
It's pretty popular right now. I've been seeing
Oh
it more and more and
yeah,
stuff.
they are.
Talk to them a little bit about kind of the decision, like it's so much sometimes that we can like preach like God, but
Yeah.
what's something that they can really like just some truth that they can have, that maybe that'll help them, that maybe when you were in that situation you would have kind of loved to hear. Talk to them out there that
Yeah.
maybe are watching right now.
Okay, yeah. So for me, like when you're in New Age, all you believe in is growth, right? Like you believe that you're growing to get to the next level of life and eventually like your peace. But when I was in New Age, I never felt peace.
Mm,
I was always, there was always issues popping up in my life. There was always something, it was like problem after problem. I was going through it. And that's what made me think like, okay, I need to give Jesus, God, like I need to try this because I believe New Age is everything. But at the same time, I don't have peace. At the same time, I'm still out here, dude. I don't have money. I don't have peace. I'm not going to school. Like at the same time, I don't have anything
mm,
good going for me. I don't. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to give God a try because the beliefs of New Age are growing and there's no growth in it. It took me a year to get to where I thought I was mentally. But in Christ, it took me a couple months. And like you said, it just skyrocketed. And all glory to Him because when I tried myself, it didn't work out.
mm,
It's Him. Like, He has just changed me into a whole person, flipped me around, and made me someone that I never thought I could be. And my family, too, they're like, Layla, my aunt always tells me because she's Christian, she's like, Layla, you're a completely different person,
mm.
completely different. Like, she always tells me, and my mom, like, she still struggles to believe that I've changed. But my aunt will tell her, like, no, like, she's different. I can see it. I can feel, like, the Holy Spirit, like. And so I just would tell people, like, give it a shot. Like, just give it
Mm.
a shot. Just pray to God and see what He'll do for you. Because New Age, it really doesn't do anything at all. When I look at it now, the power that God has is so much more than the power of the enemy. It's like the enemy's like a grain of sand and God's like the
Mm,
whole beach. It's
mm.
nothing now
That's
that I
good.
see it. It's crazy. So yeah, I would just say,
That's crazy. I have a question real quick, because you mentioned like family,
yeah.
and I've heard this so many times, like in our church and stuff, where people won't believe the change, or they're kind of like,
Hmm.
I don't really know, but I'm like, it's night and day. Like if I can see it, and I didn't even know you back before
Yeah.
2020, I can see you just when you first started coming to radio. Now I see the change. Everyone else sees the change. It's crazy sometimes friends and family that closest to you, that they don't see the change. But have
Hmm.
you had anyone reach out? Because I'll share this really quickly. It's so amazing. Um, I won't say like specific and stuff, just because like identity, I
Hmm.
want to,
Yeah.
people, I don't want to say like names, I guess, but we have someone that we know, and that's pretty close to us and stuff. My dad ends up inviting him to church and
Hmm.
everything, and he's a young kid and he's your age and stuff, and he's like, oh yeah, like I heard about that church, like,
Yeah.
oh, like Chris and Layla go there, like, yeah, I always see Layla's stuff, like she's always posting like her story and stuff, like, man, it seems like she's changed and all this
Yeah.
stuff. And my dad's like, well, like he didn't even know that you guys like knew each other and stuff. Is there people? Has there been anybody that's like has said anything at all? Like, oh, like kind of like curious or anything like that,
Yeah.
or has there not? Because even if they haven't, I know obviously they're seeing the change, but maybe they don't want to reach out. But have you had anybody like say anything to you, or comment or anything
Yeah.
like that, or good or bad?
Yeah.
Have you got any like messages on like online or anything?
Oh yeah, like definitely. So Instagram, like I'll have like more like just like good posts, just like good quotes and stuff. But Snapchat, that's where it gets like down to the real stuff. Like I'll
Mm,
post on there crying about like what I experienced at church that night, or just crying about how I feel about like what God's done for me. and a lot of people see it. And yeah, like that's the thing I enjoy about having my Snapchat. I've had the Snapchat for 4 years, so there's people on there that I used to party with, hang out with. There's like hundreds of people on there that I don't talk to. Aren't there's most of the people on there are still in the world, honestly. Like there's probably like 3 Christians on there or something. Like there's really no Christians on there. But I love it because I post this and they all see my story. And, you know, the views go down with each video. Like, not everyone stays on there. But there's people that stay and they slide up. And there are people that will tell me, I see how you've changed. It's crazy. Like, I've seen a year ago to now. And I don't understand. I tell them, like, well, get in the church. Like, come to church with me and you'll see for yourself. And there's people that'll text me and say, I don't know what to do because I'm going through this and I need a prayer, I need help. And I'm like, yes, like I will. And I get a lot of messages about people who are curious, people who are happy and like proud and want to thank me or congratulate me and everything. And I just really love having that platform to share. I'm so grateful for it. And when I came into Christianity, I wanted to just throw it away and make a whole new one. But I'm starting to see that I need to keep it because I'm sharing to people who may never hear anything about God because their lives have nothing to do with God. But I'm that little Snapchat post, that one, you know? So I do get a lot of messages because they don't see it a lot, you know?
Have you had because that's positive, have you had negative? Have you had people say things and stuff?
Yeah, like people have said like, why are you trying to change? Like it's not gonna happen. Like all stuff like that, or like God's not real. And sometimes I unfriend them. Sometimes I'll leave them on. I'm like, they're watching my story, so they're gonna keep watching and they're gonna keep seeing the glory of God. And one day they're gonna change. So it's
so good.
Yeah,
That's so
exactly.
good. I'm excited for them to watch this because it's like you're really exposing everything. And when I posted, I was like, man, we're exposing something. I love it because like the enemy, like people want, people that maybe aren't in church and stuff, they know about God and stuff, but a lot of times they won't believe in like the devil or Satan, or they think it's kind of weird and stuff. But I always tell people, like, if you believe in God, then you got to believe there's another side to it. So I love podcasts like this because we're exposing things. And oftentimes we don't talk about Satan or the demonic or all this stuff, but it's crazy. It's real. I wanted to ask you a question, and I love Against the Grain because we just like go there. And I told you this before. If you don't feel like you want to talk about it, don't. But I'm just gonna throw it out there because everyone that was here, they saw it. You went through a crazy deliverance on a Thursday night. I don't remember how long ago it was, but it wasn't too long ago. Talk to us a little bit about kind of like your journey after coming to Christ, like kind of like through deliverance and kind of getting free from things. If you want to talk about that night, you can. If not, pass on it. But it was pretty intense. It was crazy. Like I said, I have the bestie in the house, so we're playing and stuff. We're worshiping. It was after preaching and everything. And my dad's just like, hey, we're going to start praying for people. Boom. And then just deliverance started happening. And for people that don't know, maybe they're watching this for the first time and they might think like, man, that church is weird. What the heck's deliverance? All it is like God wants us to be free. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, the Bible says, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. So the Spirit of the Lord is here. Our motto at Harvest Time is like, the Lord is there. You step into this place, you're going to experience something, and it's not scary. It can seem like that if you're outside looking in, but when you have burdens, when you have stuff inside and you're free, it is priceless. It might be kind of crazy going through it, but don't act like you weren't crazy in the world. Like, you know what I mean? Like people act like that, like back brand new, like, okay, you did some crazy stuff. Like your testimony, you're like laid out for, I don't know how many hours just in like a Section 8, you say like, it's a crazy area. Like we did crazy stuff back then. And then we come to church and we act like, oh, we have to be like this holy, like there's like good crazy and there's bad crazy, it's like the good crazy is like that deliverance. All that to say is talk to us a little bit about that night because that was wild.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. So I did not expect that was going to happen. But I mean, I always do come with expectancy. So I guess I did expect, but I didn't know what deliverance was. I didn't really understand it. I mean, I got like, okay, you're going to be set free, but I've never seen one. I didn't know how it would feel or what it would do. So, it's funny. So yeah, they do altar call after, and then I go up, and pastor was like, it was funny because throughout the whole thing, it was like people were kind of pushing me forward without knowing they were. Like I would stand in the back, and one person would like move and like push me forward, and then someone else did. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like they didn't know. It was just like God like put her to the front, And I was like, okay. So finally, pastor comes to me and he's like, what do you want God to do for you? And I'm like, deliver me. And I don't know why I said that, but I mean, I did have a feeling that I needed deliverance. Like I was telling someone like a week ago before that, I feel like I need deliverance. I don't know from what, but I feel like I need it. And so he's like, okay, let's go over here. So he like pulls me to the side because he's like, this might get messy. He probably thought that. So he's like, let's go where there's less people. I'm like, okay. So we go over there. And then, yeah, he's like, puts the oil on my head. And then he starts praying. And then he's like, tell Jesus, like, I want deliverance. Like, deliver me, deliver me. And I felt nervous. I was like, I don't want to scream that. But I was like, I'm going to do it, though, because I want it, you know? So I started screaming it. And then all of a sudden, like, I start shaking, like, you know, the Holy Ghost, I start shaking, and then I fall to the ground. And then after that, I mean, personally, I felt like the experience was like 15 minutes, but like I know it was like an hour or something.
That was a
So
while. Yeah, we were going for it.
yeah. So I'm like, okay, how did it go by so fast in my mind? Like I was awake, right? I don't know what happened, but I fall to the ground and then I'm just shaking. And then I just hear people praying over me, speaking in tongues, and it was just so beautiful for me. And then like I remember zoning out, zoning back in, coming out, like coming back in, and then I just remember like coming up and screaming, like fighting. I remember like glimpses and pieces of it. And then I just remember, it's funny, like one thing I remember is Monica saying like, it's moving out day. I remember saying that. And then I remember Pastor saying like, get out, like, come on, like, I'm done, like, let's do it. You know, he's like, you're tiring me, like, get out of here. And so he finally, like, I feel just like, I just stop. Like every muscle bone, it just stops. Like, I had complete peace. And
Wow.
so all at once, I just stopped fighting. And then after that, I just felt peace. Like I felt like, it's so hard to explain, but I felt like I was literally going to start like rising up to heaven. Like at that moment, I literally felt
Yeah.
like I was going to go right now. Like it was crazy, the peace that I felt.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get up for a while. And then I remember someone put like a cold towel on my head. I was like, oh, I feel so good. I was like sweaty.
Like I could die right here.
Yes. I was like, this is amazing. And after like I got up and my legs were all shaky. And like I remember finally I was able to open my eyes and get up and everything was just so bright. It was like I had to like close my eyes, you know, like when you're in the dark and then you go outside, like that's how I felt. I was like, it's so bright in here. I'm like, what's going on, you know? And I just felt so happy. I couldn't stop laughing, giggling, and everyone was just being so nice. Like, you guys are amazing here. You guys are like such family. I'm so grateful for you guys. Everyone was hugging me, like, congratulations. And I've never felt that much love ever in my life, ever. And so it was a really special night for me. And I believe like that night I got delivered like from the spirit of witchcraft. Like it's never, no thought of it has gone back in my mind. Like it's out of there, you know? And I like that night God set me free from my past, you know? And I'm so grateful, you know? And it's funny because a couple weeks later when Matt Cruz was here, I was at the altar as well. And like that day I got like filled with or baptized in the spirit. That's what someone told me, because it was crazy what I felt. I just felt like something come in my body, like it came through my arms, it like went all in my stomach, and then it like felt insane, and then it left the same way. Like I literally felt it leave like out my arms straight through my fingertips, and I was like, I couldn't even like hold my spit, like my drool. Like I was drooling. I was like, oh my goodness. And so like God, like he's done wonders for me, like things that I could never imagine. Like he's done like miracles, straight miracles. And some people don't believe, but why don't you just come and try it? See for yourself, because it will happen if you come expecting and you're like, I want to see what this, like, it'll happen. And that's what happened to me. And he's just shown me his glory and how amazing he is. And there's nothing better. Like tripping on shrooms was nothing compared to the glory of God, nothing at all. It was dark. Now that it was so dark, it was such a terrible place, and his love is so fulfilling, and it's amazing. Yeah.
That's
so
good.
that night, really, it was a miracle. Like he showed himself to me.
That's
truly.
amazing. Come on.
Yeah.
Man, it just makes me happy because like it's awesome to hear what you're sharing, because you know I think a lot of people, you know, maybe they have a misconception like, oh, they're making her do this, or they're forcing this and everything. And I remember reaching out to you know, talking to a family member online, and we were talking about you and stuff, and they know you and stuff. And I was just like, look, like we've never told, and it wasn't a bad conversation, but I just wanted to be, you know, just be kind of straight up and just be like, it was something like, man, I'm so proud. Oh, it was about your YouTube channel that you guys were doing and stuff, you know. And I was like, man, I'm so proud of them. And they were like, yeah, I'm so proud of them too. And I was like, yeah, just so you know, like we've never force anything on them. We never force them like this is how you're supposed to do this. Like it's literally just like the conviction of the Holy Spirit, but also it's the love of God too. And that's what I love about like this church too, is like we don't have to go so crazy and be like, these are the things you can and cannot
Yeah.
do. But we're just like, we show the love, we preach with conviction, we live our lives
Mhm.
accordingly, and like everyone just kind of understands and you kind of get
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so it's awesome to hear how you're talking right now. I'm like, man, you're acting like you've been here for like for years, but it's like you get it, you know,
Yeah.
and it's so amazing. And I love that you're like young and stuff, and you can reach so many people,
Yeah.
and especially like the generation right now, like
Mhm.
they're so bound right now. There's
Yeah.
so much bondage, and it's like
Mhm.
you're preaching
Yeah.
freedom right now.
Yeah.
Like if
It's very
anybody can
sweet.
be like, if you can be free, anybody can be free.
Yeah. That's
Like you
so
were
true.
saying, witchcraft, all this stuff, like the devil is real. That this stuff
Yeah.
is real. People play games. People, let's just talk about it. We're on Against
Yeah.
the Grain right now. Let's talk
I
about it.
know,
Let's
right?
talk about, you know, like
Yes.
Stranger Things. Like, you know
Oh,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like we talked about this
I
online, right?
did tell you, yeah.
Like, you know, when first couple seasons came out, I was like, okay, like I love
Yeah.
80s, like ET, the whole deal. Like
Mhm.
this is
This
cool.
is
Like,
cool.
you know, like it was just like I don't know, like a sci-fi
Uh-huh.
monster thing. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool. But then like slowly through the seasons, and then especially this
Yeah.
last
This
one,
last
right?
season.
I watched like the first episode and I'm like, yo, like why do you have to go
Crazy.
so far? Like you guys had it kind of
Crazy.
cool. It was kind of like
Mhm.
sci-fi monster type thing, you know,
Yes.
not a big deal. But then it started going like to the demonic, and now like
Yeah.
everyone's about it.
Oh, yeah.
And I heard it's gonna get worse in the next season and stuff.
Oh.
I didn't watch the last couple. I like I said, I only watched the first episode, but I
Uh-huh.
think they said like the third, fourth, or fifth episode like it would start really getting like
Oh,
demonic.
yeah. Like, I know, like, they had kids being, like, possessed
Mm,
in the show, and that is insane to me. Like, when I saw that, I was like, this is a show, like, this is a kid show. Like, of course, adults are gonna watch it, but a lot of kids watch it. And so why are they putting this stuff in here? Like, they're really trying to infiltrate their kids' minds and everything, and it was so dark and demonic. It was straight possession, straight,
mm,
and I'm just like, insane, straight on Netflix, and that's like one of the most popular platforms. It's crazy what
hmm
they're putting out here, and yeah, I think it's so important to inform people that this is real and the spiritual is real, and there's a spiritual warfare going on, and you don't want to be on the wrong side of it. You
mm.
don't, because it's bad. Like, it's scary. You don't want to be there. You want to be in the glory and light of God.
Come on.
And so yeah, it's crazy. Don't watch Stranger Things, right? Don't watch Stranger Things, guys.
Yeah, and it's crazy, and it's only gonna get worse. And it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and with that too, like you'll see other stuff on there, like you know, I think there was like a girlfriend lesbian thing, like
Oh,
everything. They're just
yeah.
trying to put everything in like
Mhm.
in stuff. And I'm like, this is a kid's show. Like, why do you guys have to
Yeah.
like? It's
Mhm.
crazy. It's just only getting worse. But that's
Yes.
when we shine brighter. So it's just so
Yes,
amazing
exactly.
to have you
Mhm.
on the team. It's so amazing to have you. You know, I shared this already, but now you're helping with our youth. You're on staff with
Yeah.
the youth. Like that's
Crazy.
amazing. Like
Yeah.
you know, Anthony and Carla are amazing
Yeah.
leaders. You know, you and Chris are right underneath them. It was
Yeah.
so amazing. Like I said, when I got that phone call and you guys are like, hey, we want to start serving. I'm like, you guys are youth. You guys just came out. Like
Yes.
you're just so young. Like start helping with the youth. And, you know, you guys are
Yeah.
also being mentored and stuff. So it's just so amazing to see your journey where
Yeah.
you're at. And this is only the start.
I
Like that's so
know.
amazing to
I
see where
know,
you're going to be
right?
at. Because how old are you right
Yeah.
now?
I'm 18.
You're
Yeah, I'm gonna
18.
turn 19 next month.
Like you're so young. You're not even like, man, if honestly, like I was raised in church,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, if I wasn't nowhere close to your
Yeah.
level at your age, like, you know, I wasn't, obviously we
Yeah.
didn't start the church here or anything like that. I wasn't really serious. Like, yeah, we went to church every week, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like crazy or nothing. But
Mhm.
still, like I wasn't taking it serious. But you're like, you're so young, and you understand like how real this stuff is.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't imagine what you're gonna be like at 25.
Yeah.
Like 30, you're gonna be like, you're ready to take on a whole church for real.
Thank
Like,
you, Jesus.
you
So
know,
amazing.
you're ready to
So
preach for sure.
amazing.
Like, it's just
Yeah.
so amazing. So, thank you so much for being on. I feel like
Yeah.
we can go so long.
I know, right?
I told Christina, I was like, I feel like one day it'll be so cool to just like have both of you
I
guys sit
know,
down
right?
and we just talk about every little thing,
Expose.
everything about like,
Expose.
yeah,
We
the new
should.
age, witchcraft,
Yes.
like, you know, yoga, all this stuff.
Mhm.
Like, I just want to talk
Mhm.
on that real quick because she brought that up, that yoga was a big thing for her and stuff.
Yeah.
Were you ever kind of doing that, practicing that and stuff like that, or not really?
Well, I did yoga. Like, I had a yoga mat, and I would do it to like meditate and reach. Like, I would put like crystals around me and meditate, put like the frequencies on and burn incense, and like I would feel like, oh, peaceful. But I never, like, it wasn't like a routine. It was hard for me to stick with it, you know. So it wasn't like a big part of my life, but I did do it to try to like reach the state of peace and all that, but it wasn't like a big part. It's crazy because in the new age I was like so committed, right? But I couldn't even do like meditate every day like I wanted to. But in God, it's like I'm reading my word every day.
Come
I'm praying,
Your thing was more like the crystals and stuff, right?
Honestly, not even that. It's crazy, yeah, because you think like new age, all that. I had all that stuff because it like went with mine, but my thing was more like lucid dreaming, shrooms, parallel universes, all that crazy stuff, like astral projecting, like all that stuff, you know,
Mm.
and meditating. Like I didn't do all the time, but that was something that I would like to do because I felt like I was reaching like a crazy state, like out of body. My thing was more like out of body experiences. Like that's what I live for, and just
Mm.
like crazy theories of like how this life is not what it seems. Like
Mm.
that's how what got me into it, and that's what I really stuck to. And the music, that was something I would listen to it, and I would just get into like for hours. Like I would get into like this crazy like state thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
crazy.
crazy. Like literally, as you're like, you keep. It's all goes back to like confusion. It's just like bringing confusion, confusion,
Yes.
and it's so hard to get out. So,
Mm-hmm.
man, thank you
But I
so
did
much just
through
for
that.
sharing that.
Yeah.
Honestly, like it's really gonna bless someone out there.
Yeah.
You know, with the previous with Christina's, with yours, I feel like we're just like we're. It's like
Mm-hmm.
building, you know, and it's like we're
Yeah.
exposing the
Yes.
enemy. We're shedding truth. You know, we're
Yeah.
shedding light on things. So I'm just excited. Thank you, Layla, just
Yes.
for sharing
Thank you
that.
so much
I
for
know, like
having
you
me.
said, this is like your first time like sharing your
Yeah.
testimony. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for your friends, family. I don't know. Who knows
Yes.
who's going to watch
Yeah.
this? People are going to get free by seeing this stuff. So,
Yes.
real quick, if you feel comfortable, do you feel comfortable maybe throwing out like your Instagram and stuff? Because people are going to see this. People are going to
Yeah.
like, you know, you always post like stuff and everything.
Uh-huh.
Are you on Instagram or anything? Or where can
Yeah.
people
My
follow you?
Instagram is Layla. I'm just gonna spell it out because
Yeah,
it's all
yeah, go
like
for it.
Laai. Laai. I think that's it. And has a little like red profile picture. And then my Snapchat, you can add me on there too, because that's where I really like get deep into things. It's Layla_8123. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then my YouTube channel is Lay and Chris. Lai and then the little at symbol and then
Yes.
Chris, CHRIS.
I love your guys' YouTube channel because you guys are like,
Posting
yeah,
too.
you guys are so fun and everything. And it's just amazing. I got to get him on one day and just kind of share
Yeah.
because his story is amazing too.
Mhm.
And you guys are kind of growing at the same time. And
Yeah.
I like how like you guys have both kind of like bounced off, you know, each other, but at the same time, you guys have your own personal walk.
Yeah,
And I
that's
love
so
that
true. Mhm.
because it's like, you know, relationships, unfortunately, like, you know, I believe you guys are gonna get married. I just, you know, I want you guys to get married, but like the reality is sometimes things don't work out or
Yeah.
whatever. And we've seen that before. We'll have two people come to church and stuff and
Yeah.
they're with each other. And then let's
Yeah.
say something happens and they're not meant to be or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, you know, maybe the whole pursuit with God was just to keep the relationship
wow, yeah.
together, right? And then so the relationship's not there and then one falls. But I see you guys and I'm like, man, I can tell your relationship with God is genuine.
Yeah.
You know, where God forbid anything were to happen to you or you guys take a break, whatever.
Yeah.
Like I still feel like you guys are both gonna go forward like
Yes.
with your relationship and
Yeah.
stuff. And that's what it's about at the end of the
Yes.
day. But in Jesus' name,
you.
you're gonna be part of the
Yes,
family.
thank
I
you.
can't wait to see you guys. I'm already prophesying, but I'll
For
stop
real.
right there. I'll stop right there. But with that being said, thank you, Layla, again. I
Thank you so
appreciate
much,
it for just for
Manny.
sharing your story. So
Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed that episode with Layla here. So amazing. Give her a follow. Reach out to her. Send this to somebody. There's so much that's being exposed here, and it's crazy, you know. Layla was, you know, she watched Christina's, and I believe someone else, I don't even know who is out there. Someone's going to watch Layla's and be like, hey, when I watched Layla's podcast, like I went through that. I went through drugs. I went through the music, all that stuff. And I was free by just watching her and that, you know, people are going to open up just off of this podcast. So I just encourage you guys to share this and let's see what happens. Let's see what God does. So we'll see you guys on the next episode. Layla, thanks so much again.
Thank
Appreciate you.
you.